மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
And today I will record my first lesson for my new Endgame course. This video course will be dedicated to thinking process in Endgame and how to find the best moves. In some Endgames we can just play good moves and still win or draw, but some Endgames requires precision and perfect play. Let's begin with our first lesson. This Endgame was played between Aldama Dionisio and Grandmaster Varujan Akobian in Las Vegas, United States in 2006. As we can see here, Black has a very strong pass pawn that is about to promote to a queen. But White have some kind of an attack. Pawn, Rook on the 7th rank, and Knight on h6. And for all of that we have this very good defender Bishop on g6 and Rook on a8. Before arriving to this position, the last move that Black played was Rook a8. And even before that, White captured a knight on d7. Rook was on g7 and knight was on f8. And after knight d7, because White Rook was threatening checkmate, Black were forced to play knight d7 and Rook captured on d7. And now the last move was played Rook a8. It seems like that White is in trouble in this position, and maybe even Grandmaster Akobian thought that he is going to win this endgame. But White does have a very good counterplay in this position. Since we're working on how to find the best moves, of course I would like to give you a chance to calculate and figure out what would you do if this was your tournament game. So here's how we're going to do this. You're going to spend 3 to 4 minutes. It is White to move in this position. Come up with a few candidate moves. Have 2 to 3 candidate moves that you want to analyze deeper. Don't just identify them. Try to calculate a little bit deeper. If you need more time, you can think more. As for now, go ahead and pause the video. Alright, I hope you spent good quality time here, and let's go ahead and calculate some candidate moves. So I'm sure you've calculated f7, and this was probably your first move. And we have a very nice trick. After f7, a2, let's make those moves. f7, a2. We have a very strong move, Rook a7, and actually White is winning now, because after Rook takes a7, we just queen. And if you don't take my Rook, I'm just threatening to take either Rook or Pawn, and nothing Black can do about it. So they have to move the Rook to, let's say, f8, and after, let's say, Rook takes a2, White just getting a very easy win here. So let's go back. Of course, after f7, Black shouldn't play a2. a2 is a bad move because of Rook a7. Black has better moves. For example, they could take on f7, or even better, king to g7. Let's see what you analyzed. If you have analyzed bishop takes f7, then you probably achieved the draw after knight takes f7 check. So if we go in this position, king g8 or king g7, let's take a look at king g8, we just go knight g5. So the idea in this type of position is to do perpetual check. So after a2, I'm not going to even ask you, I think you all see that after knight takes h7, White gets this knight and rook tandem that always gives a perpetual check. So let's after queen check and king f8 check, king e8 check. This is a very famous tandem of the rook and the knight that always guarantees perpetual. And there was nothing that Black could do to prevent it. For example, they couldn't play Rook f8, because all we have to do here is just stop the pawn from promoting. So let's go back. Let's try king g7. And now we also escape here with this knight e5 check. The good thing that king cannot go to f6 because of the mate on f7. And we're still trying to get this rook and knight tandem perpetual check. King g8, and again we're going through g4 to get to f6 square. And it's easy draw. If we would go king h6, Black is now risking to lose the game, simply because Black's getting into the checkmate net and there's not many moves that Black can go to. So we are of course pushing here g4, and mate is just around the corner, g5, king h5, and rook takes h7. We don't even need to go into this. This is pretty obvious and easy. So no king h6, king has to withdraw to the 8th rank, and then we'll go into our knight and rook tandem draw. If king f8, I think it's already a bad move because we can even play for win now. We can take, we don't need to create this perpetual check with the rook and knight. We are now threatening rook h8, king g8 is the only move, and we can play here rook c7. It's a very interesting counterplay because, of course, I'm just threatening to go rook c1 and rook a1, so black has to go a2, and I will not go rook c1, surprisingly. I will actually play here h5. And this is a very, very interesting counterplay where knight, pawn, and rook outplays the whole queen and the rook. So let's say after queen, we go h6. Now our threat, h7, followed by knight g6 and queen, is unstoppable. The only way to stop it is to play queen b1 in this position. And of course I shouldn't play h7 because queen takes h7 and black is doing great here, probably even winning. So we will play rook g7 check. If king h8, we will mate on f7. So king has to go to f8. Now there are too many ways to win this. I think the simplest is just to check on d7, and after king e8, just to play h7. So h8 is not stoppable, therefore game is over. This is a very interesting line in case black is trying to be a little bit adventurous and try to play for win, and in that case we can punish them. So let's go back to this position. The only reason I'm showing you bishop takes f7 is because you probably just calculated and maybe you satisfied yourself. But in fact, black will just play king g7 and white have absolutely nothing here. There's no way to continue attack. We just stopped any kind of threats and black will just promote to a queen. If you figured this out pretty quickly that f7 and king g7 is losing for white, that's pretty good. That means you quickly refuted f7 move, which everyone is considering as a first move. What other moves you have considered? You probably considered move like rook g7 in this position. And you're trying to make somehow the checkmate working for you, but after a2, simply you just don't have any threats here. If you play h5, bishop will take on h5, so just no threats. So you probably quickly refuted that move, and I'm sure also you considered h5 because it's the forcing move. You want to get rid of that bishop, and I will not play a2 because this is just a pretty bad move in this position because white will take, threatening mate, and after this, white is simply winning with knight f7 check. King g8 obviously losing, so if king h7, then we go knight g5 check. If king comes here, then we win with f4. We're threatening here rook h7 mate. If king h5, we can just play here king h3. And both mates are threatened here with g4 rook h7 or just rook h7. If check, we just block, and again, we just can't stop this mate. And of course, if you go rook here, then we just get our rook behind on the a file. We can also just play here g4, king here, and play something like rook a7. Never black can get stalemate in this position, so this is just all losing. Okay, this is also losing, so of course no need to play a2. We just have a very simple solution. We just take the pawn on h5, and even if you try a move like g4, just go back. And you didn't really remove my bishop. Bishop still controls the vital f7 square, so there's nothing white can do. Those three moves are we considering, of course. There's one more move, and I really hope you all found this move. If you haven't, this will be another chance for you to pause the video. If you have found the move, we're going to continue. The correct move here is g4. This move is obviously preparing h5. For whatever cause, we're trying to remove the bishop, even for the cause allowing the black queen to be promoted. So what black can do here? a2 is only move. If we start for no reason moving the bishop, this is where we achieve our goal. Rook has no other squares to go. So of course it's a2 and we go h5. What can black do now? If we take, which seems bad because we just take back, and if black is promoting to a queen, we go rook g7. The threat is smother checkmate with simple knight f7 Or even rook g8, rook takes g8, and then knight f7. For example, in a rook f8 case, we will play rook g8 and mate like this. So the only move here is queen a7. We check on f7, and we're achieving a very easily winning position for white. So what black can do here? I'm just simply threatening to play rook e7. So let's say if king g8, I give you check again. If king here, rook e7. King g8, best move is h6. So I didn't even take the pawn. Let's say if we defend, check, here, and f7. This is a very straightforward win. Rook g8 is a threat, you have to stop, and this maneuver, which black cannot just stop. Just rook comes all the way here and just queens. Even if we go rook f8, we go rook a1, rook a7 next move, rook e7, and then rook here. Just game over instantly. Nothing they can do. They can never take because of the back rank checkmate. So this is all easy. This is easy. Of course, black shouldn't take the pawn h5 and waste time. Instead, they have to promote. We take, and we're threatening mate in 1. They have to take. Okay, I of course hope that you calculate till here. Have you figured till the end how white can make a draw here? I don't know. But one thing we know, we should play forced moves. Okay, so the very forced move in this position is knight f7, check. King g8, knight h6, check back. If we repeat and then try king h7, let's say, right? Then we go knight g5, check. If king h6, knight f7, check. King h7, knight g5, check. Unfortunately, white cannot win this position. They have to be satisfied with the perpetual check. But if black tries to be adventurous and after knight h6 go king f8, they get in a little bit dangerous position, because after rook f7 check, king e8, rook e7 check, they can no longer try to play for win and play king d8. They should just be satisfied with the king f8. And after check, king e8, check, repeat the position. But if black decides to be adventurous and play in this position king d8, they're just losing. If you haven't figured this out, how black is losing, go ahead and just pause the video for 1 minute and figure quickly out how white can win this position. You can go ahead and pause the video now. Alright, so this is super easy. Check, king c8, check, can't go here, rook b7 mate, king here. We could make a draw, of course, back and forth, but of course white is winning now. They have knight b7 check. And after king c8, f7 just wins because there's no way to stop f8 queen. So this is how white should make a draw, and this is how black should just never try to win. They should just be satisfied with a draw. And this is actually how game ended. Aldama Dioniso found this brilliant move g4, and after a2 played h5, and after queen take, they agreed to a draw without playing all those moves out. And there is no need to test anyone. Players at their level, of course, can calculate in their mind and figure out that this is all drawn. What does this position teaches us? Let's go back. This is the type of position where you cannot play just normal good moves, try to keep the balance in the position or just try to improve your position. This is a very concrete positions. And how do we recognize that this position is very concrete in our games? We just have to calculate in advance. Here we just know if we don't do something certain, the queen comes. So now you just turn on this survival mode where you just start calculating everything, even moves like g4. They're not obvious moves, but you just have to do this. Sometimes you will have moves like g4, sometimes you won't, and you will not have enough counterplay. But whenever you have a chance, you have to seize it. All right, so we're done with this position. Let's go to the next position. All right, so our next position is from the game Aronin against Vasily Smyslov, the world champion, and I called this thinking process in endgame. There are not many players in the world who play this endgame perfectly for black, but it really impressed me, and therefore I would like to share with you this endgame. So I have this quote here by Vasily Smyslov. This pawn ending is almost like a study. When my opponent made his next move, he was sure that he was going to win. Why would Vasily Smyslov think so? Because of the body language, right? So opponent played the move and was showing his confidence that he's going to win. There is no defense. The move that Aronin played in this position is g4, securing the king side, for an easy win on the queen side. So obviously he calculated that after king f7, king e2, king e7, king e6, king g3, king g6, king c4, a5, white is winning with the c3. So we're basically attacking the pawn. c5 is not good here, because we can just go king b5. Black must...
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க.